Hi, everybody.
Hey, everybody! I'm looking at the light. Look at the camera.
You are the light, dear.
If I'm even on camera, yes, I am. It's just a little crooked. How's everybody doing? Welcome to TFT Tarot for Today, Divine Dabblings with
Oberon.
and me, Banshee, and this is your Weird Week.
Yes.
Ours too.
It's our weekly look at the geosphere, the political, the international situations through our twisted lens, perhaps, of tarot, and trying to determine what's going on and what are the important points to take away.
And there were many from last week, weren't there?
Let's do the recap.
You know, we initially had thought it could be talking about climate change. It could be talking about the Trump arraignments. It could be talking about the Prigozhin plane episode with the crash of Prigozhin's plane, suspected a bomb or some explosive device was placed on the plane. It's still rather unclear what happened there. There are varying accounts. Some are more going with the explosive theory now, that something was planted, carefully on the plane. Whatever the case may be, they claim they have DNA to prove that Prigozhin's dead. We feel, after some discussion, that, both the Trump scenario and the Prigozhin Russian scenario have some validity here for the reading we did last week.
So let's run through it.
I was just about to say that, Mr. O.
Well, I gotta say something once in a while.
Oh, no, just,
Look pretty?
Yeah.
That's pretty hard, too.
It's what you do.
It's what you do.
Hey, everybody.
Okay,
the first
card one.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us what that card is.
Well, it's death reversed.
No, what is the position?
And it fell into the position of what our major focus theme for the Weird Week was. And it's taken from the Twin Tarot, which Banshee usually wields. So we had death reversed.
One could argue that, death reversed is stagnation, sort of a death. And in a sense, it could signal this assassination of Prigozhin and 9 other people that were on this plane. And so, and also that maybe, that nothing good comes of this. If Putin was expecting some kind of bump or good things to happen, that Wagner and everybody will just fall in line out of fear that they'll be next on the chopping block list. Well, maybe that'll happen, but maybe that won't. And is that a good thing to be running your country that way? I don't know.
And you have to consider that basically the basic meaning of death reversed is political stagnation, political inertia. And of course, the situation has probably thrown Russia into that situation right now where things are definitely up in the air. I've heard that there are more people looking at the tally of various unusual deaths in those who are closest or were closest to him. So some of this is maybe moving people into, that wait and see, don't do anything yet position.
So do we want to tackle Trump at the same time and just go through them all this way? All right, just to be concise. So, if we look at death reversed as far as Trump goes, this really puts a block on a lot of things for him. It's not stagnating his campaign per se. He's pulling in a lot of money and support for his case. However, it is, putting a damper on him in the polls. Apparently, there's quite a number of Americans who want to see him drop out. 50%, I believe, or more now, want to see him drop out and, deal with his criminal charges. There's a certain other percentage, and it is lower, of Americans that want to see him go through this trial. They thought he should be charged. So, and if we look at the other candidates, if we look at the other people who are charged as well, along with him. Co-conspirators. Thank you, Mr. O. Lots of things are stagnating there. Some of them are having difficulties meeting financial obligations. And so, they're trying to find ways to do that. They're wondering why this Trump Legal Defense Fund is not helping all of them.
But from a political inertia point of view, people on either side of the political divide could say, why are some things taking so long? Or why does something not seem to be moving?
So, card 2, the Queen of Swords reversed, and that was in the position of?
What we will find out.
What we'll find out or
the mysteries
see.
From the Secrets Tarot.
Well, the Queen of Swords reversed is somebody made a bad decision here. You know, it's in the Putin-Prigozhin case. Is this really going to be helpful? Some could also look at this decision as being cold and heartless.
Overly harsh.
Which is what the Queen of Swords stands for. Not only did Prigozhin die, a number of other people died. Now, some of those may not be innocent players here because they were probably leaders also in the Wagner group in the Soviet Union, in Russia. And the thing is that, I was going to say something, doggone it, that, they may not be very happy about this too. And so he took out a lot of their leaders. So obviously this is an attempt to, bring the Wagner group under the Russian military's control, which goes back to the person that the leader, I believe, is it that Shoigu, who's the military leader that Prigozhin really wanted out. And so it's hard to say what's going to happen here, but this judgment may prove very bad. Now, what about in the Trump? Oh, do you want to add to this?
No, in the case, I was going to move to the Trump case. In the case of the Trump situation, well, number one, we could see that maybe, justice, which is also maybe avatared by the Queen of Swords, is going to be fair but harsh. It doesn't mean that it's a bad decision, but it does mean it's a decision that not everyone will like. And certainly we may not like the decisions that the defendants are moving towards, or that the judge is moving towards with the defendants.
I also think that it was a bad decision for Trump to make that mean, tough-looking mugshot. It may project the image that he wants to project to his base, but what about other people who might look at it now as more arrogance and like, I don't give a darn what this justice system is going to try to do to me. It's all invalid to me, and it's making a lot of other people question whether they want him as leader again.
So that falls back to the other way of looking at the Queen of Swords reverse, right, which is a bad decision,
yep,
and maybe something that was harshly, discriminately made and will probably have a bad effect.
And one other thing that just popped into the little old head, Mr. O, we may also find here that, despite all these indictments, despite everything that has happened to this man, we're up to what, 91, 93 now, total indictments.
Who's counting?
With all the cases. Apparently not the MAGA followers. They still are voting en masse for him. And even if what do I want to say, independents, or even if Democrats are all dead set against having Trump become president again, it looks like Trump is still the leading nominee for the Republican Party. Bad decisions.
Card 3.
Card 3. The Two of Wands upright.
And this is our mutually held and shuffled deck. It's the Tarot of Oppositions.
And so you can look at both sides of the coin here. And on some level, Putin had a strategy. He probably was planning for some time to take Prigozhin out. And what better day to make a statement than 2 months to the day of Prigozhin's uprising against Russia?
Well, it's almost
against Putin, I should say.
From that upright point of view, it's almost a perfect kind of thing. Like, he sort of has his hand on his world, the typical stance, but there's still some planning of things ahead that are glinting in his eyes.
And now he's declaring, that the Wagner Group must declare their loyalty to Russia and to him. And so will that happen? There's a lot of people who are upset about this death. There's other groups in Russia, that are fighting in Ukraine, neo-Nazi groups that are wanting now Putin to protect some of their own people and do things for them. And so it's given people, this whole situation has given people a lot more chutzpah, for want of a better word, to speak out. Go to the Trump thing.
Well, okay.
Or unless
did we cover the range of feeling of the Two of Wands reversed?
With both of these? Well, okay, we did not.
Okay.
We did not. And so do you have anything to add with the reverse? Because I do, but go ahead.
Well, if we look at the Prigozhin thing and Russia in general from that reversed idea, the idea that there's a fungibility here or somewhere in the middle, perhaps, it's clear to show, I think, that the plans were not well made. That's basically the basic takeaway there. Planning was not so well, and maybe there are senses of not really understanding what your goals are or how to really apply yourselves to your goals.
Yeah, and I guess all I would add to that is that this strategy may backfire. Putin may find that this strategy may seriously backfire on him.
So let's look at Trump then with that.
Well, let's look at that. There's all kinds of strategies going on, with the various people being arraigned and Trump himself. Trump's goal is to delay. Other people's goals, some of them, they want this done. They thought if they sped their trial day up, they would catch Fani Willis unprepared, and so that maybe they would be able to pull off a victory here. But Fani called their bluff and said, "Okay, we'll do it." Then of course we had people like Mark Meadows and Jeffrey Clark who want to move their trials to federal court, and I believe that Sidney Powell may be looking for the same thing now. Or no, Sidney Powell also wants a speedy trial. That's what she asked for. So there are different strategies that are going on. And so some strategies are bound to backfire, as we see maybe with the Chesbrough and, the decisions to move the trial dates up. It may backfire on them. And some said it might be at an advantage for Trump to see these people's trials go first so they can see all the evidence presented and work their own case better. Forget helping those guys out, just to make their own case better. But the bottom line here is that my feeling is that if Fani, what is her last name? Willis. Fani Willis has a win here or two under her belt before the Trump trial. I think that Trump is going to feel awfully nervous at the way things are going. And
because there is a spectrum between those two opposites there, we could also say that Trump not being present or separating himself, he's going to be the person pointed at by anybody who comes to trial before him.
And people have already started.
People have already done
Two people, election deniers, but the false electors in Georgia are two of them. Okay, so card 4, the Knight of Wands reversed is, what is the overall impact? The overall impact is rash, bad acts abound here.
Certainly in either of these cases.
It was an aggressive maneuver to take out Prigozhin the way he did, and it may come back to really hurt him in the long run. And as far as some of the other things go, well, with Trump, he's already speaking out and denigrating the prosecutor more and stuff after he has been warned to watch what he says, not to influence people, the juries, etc. And what is he doing? He's doing exactly that. One wonders what his game is. Does he want to rile up? Does he want to get arrested before the trial so that maybe there'll be this civil war in the country and there'll be no trial at all?
Well, it's interesting to note that the Knight of Wands reverse could kind of suggest somebody who is raging and just forcing themselves towards something and, maybe has kind of a reddish, blondish, orangey hair in some interpretations of the tarot.
The card I had the most problem with was card 5, which is the overall impact. It was a 6 of Pentacles upright. Now, I think after talking some of this out with Mr. O in the Prigozhin and Putin case, you know what? Putin is probably going to have to give a little bit to try to appease, the forces. Like, he's got to make sure the Wagner forces are still well taken care of, well paid, and getting some perks that will keep them in line. I mean, he can't possibly take everybody out who's his enemy here. I mean, he needs those troops. And also other troops that are factions, not necessarily, part of the whole Russian military industrial complex, these neo-Nazi groups, etc. Well, they may be watching their backs now, and their loyalties may be divided.
Well, the idea of appeasing somebody that maybe, you need to keep on your good side also applies to the Trump situation. We don't have to go through all of that again, but it is also interesting to note that in besides material things, money, acquisitions, pentacles can also stand for security. And so maybe the appeasement is giving a sense of security to people who are not feeling very secure in either of those scenarios.
Well, it's give and take. And, Trump, some people have been complaining about not getting the money they need for their trials. And Trump has all this war chest to himself. And so even Rudy Giuliani has been talking it up about how broke he is. And suddenly there's a private jet whisking him to Georgia for his arraignment. How did that happen? And so, see, either Giuliani's lying about his money, or maybe, and also Trump has promised to have a fundraiser for Rudy next month. Didn't hear him mention any of the other people being arraigned. So like I said, I think there's going to be a lot of things going on here.
That was wonderful. Let's get to this week.
Well, Mr.
Where's the popcorn?
I have no idea where this week is going to go, honestly.
All right, so card 1 is once again from Banshee's Twin Tarot Oracle deck, and it represents the major focus or theme that may be present this week. All right, what we got?
Okay. Hey, happy joy.
And it looks like we have the upright sun.
Wow, what could happen? Is everybody suddenly going to kumbaya? Is everything going to be, maybe it's just going to be a week where we don't have many major upsets. I wonder about that, though, because Florida's in the target of some hurricane or tropical storm activity. Even Ron DeSantis had to cancel some campaign stops to go tend to his state. So, because there's a state of emergency, there was a hate race-based crime in Florida, Jacksonville, Florida. And so I don't know, but it looks as though there's a sense of hope starting, as the focus for this week. We're all looking for something to be hopeful for.
Well, in other meanings, the sun also stands for an illumination, maybe a finding out or receiving knowledge. And of course, we also have a full moon this week.
That's right.
Which can kind of pertain to some of that. So it may be that this week is where we find out something that's important or valuable, no matter what it's about.
A full moon, blue moon, super moon. So, who knows? All right, Mr. O, I think you are up next with what we will find out or see, the mysteries with...
Oh, you can say that because I said it for you.
The Secrets Tarot.
Yes. One of my favorite reading decks from a few years back, meaning more than 5 or 10. And I had to replace it because the original deck got ruined. But it's a lovely deck for me to read with, but I think I really like its use here. The Secrets Tarot. So what are the mysteries or things that we may find out?
Oh boy.
Ace of Wands.
Upright?
Upright.
Wow.
So the Ace of Wands is upright. What we may find out is there is some awakening, renewal, some growth or beginning of something that maybe either engenders financial goodness, possibly enterprising behavior, possibly entrepreneurial behavior, networking. You know, it almost sounds like this could pertain to perhaps the climate situation or anywhere where maybe there's inequalities, you know, based on poverty levels versus rich levels. So maybe, you know, what we may find out is that somebody is going to be trying to begin something that can be helpful and growthful.
Right. And I'm not going to keep going on the same things, climate, war, Trump necessarily. I do think it could be some type of a business innovation, or it could be possibly some, some positive energy so far as the economy, economic growth goes. So, you know, it is a wand, not a pentacle, but, you know, it just could mean business indicators are up. It could mean trade agreements, could mean some other things that are very, very positive for certain, you know, countries in the world.
So let's look forward to that. That would be nice to find out that, you know, somewhere in the world there are good things happening and that probably this is money well spent.
I'm going to definitely be keeping my eye on world affairs this time.
Okay, so now we're on card 3, the deck we both shuffle. It's the Tarot of Oppositions, and what we are looking to find is what are the other perspectives we need to consider. And in a similar, but not quite way to the Twin Tarot, our first card, the Tarot of Oppositions employs the idea of the opposite or the reverse meaning of the card within that card, and then also maybe the liminal or range of impressions that could be between those. Alrighty. So, what are the other perspectives to consider?
It's upright too.
Yes. And it's the upright 5 of Pentacles.
Oh. So, okay. So that is what is
other perspectives.
Ooh.
And of course, we are not limited by that upright meaning. We can kind of bleed into the opposite meaning. So I'm going to just open the salvo and say,
I'm sure you will. I already know where you're going.
The other perspectives to consider is that there is or are haves and have-nots in this situation. People who maybe are looking for the answer, people who have found the answer. Is there a way to unite those, to maybe let each help each other in a way? Although it would seem to be more one-sided.
Well, I'm beginning to think that that may or may not be true. No, not the part about haves or have-nots, but, you know, I'm sort of looking at this card as people trying to find a sense of where do they truly stand, where do they truly belong. You know, maybe people are questioning their associations. Maybe people are questioning, you know, why aren't our needs being considered? I can consider, you know, the UAW, for example, in the U.S. Strikes are happening because the auto workers are tired of the upper echelons giving themselves triple-figure bonuses in some cases, whatever, and they are getting, you know, peanuts in comparison. And so I'm just thinking there could be, you know, this idea of, well, you know, we want ours too.
Resolving inequity?
It is about resolving inequity, but it's also about realizing what side we're really on here too. So in other words, it could also be, you know, some of the political divides here. For example, support for Russia, support for Ukraine, support for other things. I would give more examples. In our country, you know, are people questioning their alliances now that all these indictments have come down, for example? I don't know.
And just a side note, but because, you know, Pentacles can represent material security too. We could even possibly look at people on the divide of other kinds of disasters or things that are happening around the world, like the wildfires that are running out of place.
Yes.
And some people think it's okay or they don't mind it that much, and some people are saying like, no, this is really important.
And you know, when I think about the shooting that happened this week in Jacksonville, on, of course, an anniversary of the historic March on Washington, you know, certainly planned that way by the perpetrator, you know, there could be this whole sense of people just trying to understand, you know, is community here supporting us? Why does this keep happening? You know, why? And so there might be that as well. And also for those who are perpetrators of this type of violence, why do they feel so outside the system or so antagonistic and hateful to others? Why? So, you know, because in a way, the Five of Pentacles speaks on feeling like an outsider.
The dark night of the soul kind of thing, the idea that you are on the outside and you can't figure out how to get
back in. Is a person who lived at home. We don't know enough about his background yet, if he had friends, if he was just a total lone, excuse me, lone wolf, like many of these people are.
Well, we don't want to spend a lot of time with that scenario or the card, but it is interesting to note that apparently his father and maybe his other parents had no idea that he felt this way.
Yeah. So, and he got the guns legally, according to what we have heard. Okay,
Card 4. Banshee will wield the Healing Light Tarot to tell us what is the overall impact.
There it is. Had to look a minute.
Please let us know if you like the show. Please let us know if you agree or disagree. Leave your own comments here on this video if you want. Or you can also reach us through our Twitter or Facebook accounts. In both cases, those are TFT Tarot for Today. On Twitter, it's Tarot number 4 for today. You can also reach us at Instagram if you happen to, or you can write us at our Gmail, TFT Tarot for Today at Gmail.
You know, with all the drama going on in the U.S., sometimes it's hard to focus on what might be going on elsewhere. I'm not really keeping up with what's going on, for example, in Great Britain right now. You know, maybe there's some things that our cards are applying to in some of these other regions of the world that we are just not on the pulse of.
So we need your help. We need you to tell us about that too. Yeah. And we will gladly add it into our recap in the following week.
Or if there's anything you want us to keep our eye on in future episodes, do let us know.
So once again, we are at card 4. What is the overall impact? Healing Light Tarot.
It's upright. We have all upright cards right now, but upright doesn't always mean good, like in the Five of Pentacles case.
And it's the Page of Swords.
So, what is the overall impact? The overall impact is a lot of communication going on, which is good. You know, we like to hear clear lines of communication. That could be a sign of diplomacy, people trying to work things out. Hey, you know, in Putin's case even, that might be him trying to finagle deals with, you know, the people he has to deal with. So, I mean, it's definitely some diplomacy, some talk, some dialogue, some intellectualizing, some analysis going on.
I like to think of the Page of Swords as those things, and then I also like to think of them as a person who tries to be tactful as they deal with things, graceful, especially if under pressure, which of course is almost everything these days. So the overall impact is that there may be people who will say, I can address these situations. Maybe there are people that are in a position to do that. I can try to meter what those, you know, situations are and try to bring a sense of compactness and maybe diplomacy to the proceedings.
So will there be some kind of breakthrough moment here? Often the swords are about breakthroughs, brainstorming. Maybe there's going to be some medical innovation that's going to be crazy, crazy good. Maybe there's going to be something else, maybe to stop wildfires or, help with climate change, maybe mitigate some of the climate change. Who knows? There could be some discovery or something really innovative going on because we have that and we have that,
It's like the impact could be finding the solution that challenges us to be more polite people.
Well, maybe.
Maybe. Well, I sort of see that in the page.
I see it in a scientific way too with the page. So I don't know.
But that could apply to that too,
It
really.
could. It could.
So now we are at our last card. It's what could win the weird week, what strategies or outcomes may happen. And we're using the Global Fusion Intuitive Tarot. Seems to be a good way to kind of project off into the possible victory that we would like to achieve somehow. These situations may not necessarily be all tied together. That's why we kind of throw out as many things as we think fit. But what could possibly win that?
I don't know. You're about to tell us. It's the only reversed card we got.
And it's the reversed Judgment. Almost a sure sign that maybe nothing could win this week, or could be suggesting that what needs to happen really is some sort of move towards a more spiritual sense rather than, negating that. So what could win the week would be maybe figuring out how to stop embracing just things that maybe feel punishing, things that feel dead to us. That could be the reverse of Judgment, not being able to really rise to a situation. I'm trying to invert this a little bit without inverting it totally, because it is kind of dramatic to say there's nothing really good here to win the week.
Well, because we've had such positive cards, this is such a downer. So what could I say? I could say that on one hand, what could win the weird week is that, we reject harsh criticism over science. We reject people who refuse to change over what is necessary. Maybe some innovations are going to be coming along and people will say, no, we don't need it. We don't want no part of that. Maybe there'll be conspiracies surrounding it, etc. So that could lose the weird week. What could win the weird week is rejecting that kind of thinking and actually being willing to realize and recognize that we have to accept this innovation, the newness, that, it's time to shed the old skin of who we were and embrace what's coming.
Embrace the possible was the words in my head.
Embrace the alien invasion. Embrace AI. No, I don't know. I mean, we have to embrace what seems to be good, but, there's always somebody that is going to be the Debbie Downer here. And let's hope it doesn't have to do with, a rich versus poor situation where the rich are trying to block something that really could benefit all of society, but it's because they either, one, don't want to pay for it, two, don't want to lose profit margins.
Right. If they can't make money off of it, they may not want to do it.
So
let's do our wrap up then.
Oh my gosh, it's
Card
so strange.
1. Major focus or theme is the sun. And I thought it meant some sort of discovery. Maybe it's a discovery of knowledge. The sun does sort of stand for learning in a way. It's an emphasis on knowledge.
It's also about success. It's also about, as he has said, illumination, knowledge. It's like brighter days. We maybe have achieved, in a sense, it's like a breakthrough moment as well, a positive breakthrough. And that leads right into our second card, what we will find out or see, and that is
the Ace of Wands, which is upright.
It's a new beginning of some sort, in a more positive direction, and it could be in the business sector. It could be some innovation, some innovative thinking that really catches hold and catches on.
It feels like enterprise. It feels like somebody networking. It feels like somebody figuring out how to create something that maybe generates everything, profit as well as good feelings.
And then what other perspectives need to be considered? Well, that's that darn Five of Pentacles. And, on the one hand, it is saying that there's a lot of inequities. There's a lot of people who feel lost or left out of things. There's systems of government. It's not just in the U.S., We have a bunch of refugees leaving their country because they feel threatened either by their government or criminals in their society. And, so they're trying to find better conditions. And then on the reversed hand of it is clear that healing is needed. Healing is necessary. We need everybody to come together.
Right. And, for the position of that card, this is nearly a perfect card to be in that position. The idea that there is such a strong divide between people who feel they have what they need and people who feel like they do not. So this is really a way to maybe share that perspective that there's a lot of people who can help out, a lot of people who need help, but maybe we all learn something by helping others.
Card 4 is what is the overall impact, and that was
the upright Page of Swords.
Page of Swords, which again, it's a real illuminating moment. The Page of Swords is, like he says, it can be about gracefulness and dancing through things. No argument there. But it's also about communication. It's also about brainstorming. It's also about innovation in a way too. And news, so this could be the communication of this innovation and new beginning that we're talking about here. I have this sense that it could be either in the scientific community or maybe the medical community.
Well, that's the swords talking, and I agree with that. But I think the idea of the Page of Swords, grace, dexterity, tactfulness, is also just about really, for this position, being able to meter discussions or meter these discoveries, whatever they're happening, and be able to present them in a way that it's like bringing a consensus in a way.
It's like diplomacy.
It's diplomacy, but it's also trying to bring more people to a consensus.
And card 5, what could win the weird week or lose it?
Well, no.
It's Judgment reversed.
It is Judgment reversed.
And all those positive cards want us to believe that maybe there's a happy outcome. Do you want to do the happy side? I'm always in the sad side. No.
Well, the idea maybe that we have decided we can't really keep being this way of denying reality or denying some sort of brotherhood.
Doing the same old things in the same old way?
Yeah, I like the way you say it better.
Well, that's just what I'm throwing out there. I agree with you. That's pretty much what you're saying, is that we have to shed that skin and do different things. But conversely, this could also mean that there are a lot of people unwilling to do that. Change resistors.
Exactly. And it is an opportunity for really finding your best self, but only if you are really willing to do it.
Holy moly, I have no idea. I guess we're just going to have to see how this week unfolds. At least to me, anyway. I'm hoping that the emphasis is off of Trump and the trial. Maybe even the election too, maybe, and that it is on some other issues, maybe world issues, things that affect more of us, or, it could be something in the labor, or, what do I want to say, the industrial scientific sector.
So like we said, we really do want to hear your feedback. Don't hesitate to leave us a comment here on this video, or also Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and of course you can always write us at our Gmail account, TFT tarotfortoday@gmail. And until next time.
Until we have another episode, take care, everybody. Have a good one, and we'll see you next week for another Your Weird Week.